Sorry.
Yeah, but you know, yeah. One year.
I'm streaming everywhere. Well, good evening, everyone. You get to put up with me. Martin is out of town. So I would welcome everyone here. And call the meeting to order.
Right.
And Joanna, if you'll do the roll call.
Will do. Ken Whitco.
Here.
James Hairston. Mark Pila. Hold on. Teresa, is there an echo?
A little bit.
Okay, just a sec.
Sorry. I don't know who I just said, so did I say James Hairston?
Here.
Okay, Mark Pila.
Here.
Alan Hart.
Here.
Ray Dodson.
Here.
Todd Wolf.
Here.
Karen Burr. Here. Teresa King.
Here.
And Martin Coleman asked to be excused. He had to go out of town. And Henry Wilson did not sneak in around me, and I haven't heard from her. We have our council member Tristan Morcello here. Welcome. We have Police Chief Patrick Smith. I was like, he disappeared on me. There he is. And we have Assistant Fire Chief Scott Adams.
Hello.
We have a youth council member with us, Violet is here. And then I will introduce our guest speaker when we're ready for her. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move the minutes be accepted as presented.
Second.
Okay, all approved?
Aye.
Okay. Any public comments, Joanna? No. All right. So Deanna Wright.
Dina Wright.
Dina Wright. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you've got the floor if you're ready.
Well, I was just told that you guys wanted an overview of the municipal court. That kind of, okay. So I'll give you the overview, and then of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. So the municipal court was established exactly the same day the city incorporated back in February of 1996. To give you some history, I've been here since July of 96, so I've been here for a very long time. And the municipal court is a court of limited jurisdiction. So what that means is that we here, our jurisdiction is limited to what occurs in the city of Lakewood. For the court, that means a little bit more because DuPont and Silicon also contract with us for court services. We hear misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor cases. Those are your thefts, your shoplifting, your theft and shop. It's been a long day. Thefts, domestic violence, DUIs, unlawful bus conduct. We do photo infractions, speeding tickets. We also have an animal property and code calendar, which is here, like if your neighbor's dog is barking and running around the streets with no leash, and animal control goes out there and gives a ticket. We do those types of hearings, and we also have property violations. If people are storing, 50 cars on their property, and you as their neighbor don't like to look at it, and you want to make a complaint to code enforcement, we also handle those tickets and infractions. So we don't do any felonies, no kidnappings, murders, or anything like that. So we do see, because of the makeup of Lakewood, we do see quite a few domestic violence assaults, whether it's within the transient community, substance abuse, the military. And so between our three jurisdictions, we get quite a few domestic violence calls. So we handle that. We have one judge, she's appointed to a 4-year term. And we have probation services. We have our actual probation department. So if somebody's on a deferred prosecution, that's usually a 2-year mandatory probation, and then 3 years of bench probation. So we actually have a probation officer. We utilize 2 jails. We do transports every day via Zoom for Nisqually jail, which is located in Nisqually, and then in Yelm. And then we also contract with Pierce County, and those folks actually have to be transported to the courthouse, and we have holding cells down beneath the city hall. And but we don't have video availability with Pierce County, and we've been trying for over 20 years, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. That's not because of technology, it's just there too, they just don't have the space and staffing for it at this time. So we do that, we hear cases every day. We have a veterans treatment court, which is a therapeutic court. We are in the process, in fact, as in an hour and a half meeting today, we're going to start a community court, which is to assist some of the people that I know we've all seen, whether they're pushing the shopping carts around, or they're sleeping in front of Barnes and Nobles, or they're, passed out on the sidewalk somewhere. The reason that we've started to do community or therapeutic court is studies have shown, of course, you're gonna have some people that just need to go to jail. They need to be in prison, they're sociopaths or psychopaths or whatever. But a lot of people, it's just, they don't have the means to get the treatment or the help or the support that they need. So in having our veterans court, we have found that when people have wraparound services, you can go to counseling here, you can get assistance with housing here, you can get transportation here, you can get a bus pass, bicycle, whatever it is. When they have all of those wraparound services, they are a lot more amenable to change and actually less recidivism in crime. So that's kind of what we want to do with our community court, is to address some of those issues. I will say, in doing this for 27 years, that we are going to see more therapeutic courts and more of that therapeutic approach. You might have somebody who, they're stealing, they're into drugs, they're into gangs, and then when you start, drilling down on that, probably their parents were in a gang, probably that they were encouraged to be in a gang, they were encouraged not to talk to law enforcement, they were encouraged to sell drugs. And so once you start kind of peeling away those layers, sometimes there's a lot of hope in finding that person in there and then getting them on to be a successful participating individual in the community.
That's a lot.
Yes, we're very busy. We're very busy.
Are there any questions?
Is there a current backlog in one department or another that's more significant than others?
In the courts?
Yeah.
Well, we have court rules and everything that we have to go by. So once a case is filed, it stays on a timeline. However, attorneys are notorious for, negotiating and needing a continuance and needing to talk to this witness. So sometimes, especially on, if it's an intense DUI case, it's not like a first time offense, but maybe it's a second or third, and they're going to try to, it could take anywhere from a year to 5 years, or if the person doesn't come to court and has a warrant, that can derail the case for quite some time. I mean, we have people all the time that come in and they have a warrant active for the past 3 years, 4 years. So there's not really, but once there's a case is proceeding and the defendant is there and all the parties are there, it can't be continued out past a certain date without the defendant signing the right to waive speedy trial to another 90 days or another 120 days. And so we'll see that, but it's not, like I said, we have to go by the court rules.
Yeah, you help me understand this community court and the wraparound services. The court would have people who were charged with a crime and adjudicate that and then refer them, or how would that interact?
So what happens in the same process for veterans court is the parties will come to an agreement, the prosecutor and the defense, and they'll say, okay, well, we want him to do this, him, he or her, to do A, B, and C, and D, and then if they complete that and they don't, and they're successful in that, then their case will usually get dismissed, but they have to jump through hoops to do stuff. And they have to come to court more often than our traditional court. They have to come more often, and they also have to come to forums, and they have to, if they're given an assignment to, make contact with the DA and meet with the BJO, or go and talk to the person about homelessness stuff or housing, then they have to do that. They have things that they have to do and check off their list. If they're successful, then their case is dismissed. If they're not, then they go back into the traditional court setting. I can tell you with our veterans court that we started back in 2016, out of our graduates, we haven't had any reoffenses. So, and so that's kind of what community court, a lot of people, like if you're an indigent person and you're barely making it and you're possibly living out of your car and you don't have any money and you're not working and you have, let's say you're addicted to something, it's very hard when somebody says, go do A, B, and C, you know, when you're barely surviving. So community court also brings the stakeholders to the court. So if we know that Mr. Jones is on the docket and he really needs to get an assessment to figure out what kind of treatment he needs, we have a community partner who will actually be there and giving him an assessment on site. And we're also working with like LASA and DSHS, I'm sorry.
Who will do the assessment prior to their hearing?
Well, what happens is the process, they don't get an assessment before, because community court can be any kind of issues. It can be that they're, you know, mentally unfit. A lot of it is drugs and alcohol. It could be that they just don't have housing and they don't have a car because they're pushing a shopping cart around, so they can't get to any services. It might be transportation. So who decides if they come into community court is the prosecutor and the defense. And so they'll have a case in front of them and the defense will be saying, well, we want to put this guy in community court. And then the prosecutor will say, well, he did this, so I want him to do, you know, he broke a window at Target, so I want him to do community service. And he was high, and so I want him to get in a drug and alcohol assessment and then follow up with whatever the recommended treatment is. And then those will be the stipulations that will be part of him to complete to get his case dismissed.
So the public defender then will present.
Mhm.
So the public defender then will have to do some kind of assessment on the needs of the person.
No, our probation department does the risk and needs assessment.
After the hearing.
Mhm. Yeah, and this isn't like they have one hearing and then we don't see them. They're gonna come into court every other week. So they have a hearing, then they meet with probation, and then they'll come back to community court and we'll say, talk, see how they're doing. And then we'll give them a checklist. Okay, okay, now we've identified that you do need treatment. So now you need to go to treatment as prescribed by the treatment agency. And then we'll see him again in another week, and then we'll check up on his status, and it goes on and on like that for the duration of the program.
Well, what I'm having trouble understanding is someone who is living on the street, no resources, no address. He gets picked up for some minor offense. How is he going to have the resources to even get started?
Because if that's the case, then they're appointed a public defender at their first court appearance, which is an arraignment. And then that attorney would then start negotiating on that person's behalf.
But then that person isn't going to have the resources to go around and find a place to live, or maybe even to come back to court in a week and a half. It's living on the street.
Yeah, well, that's why they have the wraparound services. That's why we're offering it for people to come to the actual court. Like I was saying, if we identify that, okay, somebody's coming to community court and they need housing, or they need bus passes, or they need a way to get around, then we'll put them in touch with those organizations right there at the courthouse. They do have to come to court on their own. And so that's part of the program. But these are all people that live, like I said, within the city of Lakewood.
So the resources will be there for them to make contact
Oh,
at that court.
yes, yeah, the people will actually physically be there.
Okay.
Physically, and they'll have like a little table, you know,
Mhm.
and like I said, we're gonna have PSHS, we're gonna have LASA, we have Ideal Options, which is a great place, and they're making huge strides in getting, as we all know, there's a fentanyl and opioid epidemic in this state. And they're having a great success rate of getting these people off of opioids, because a lot of people choose to stay on them because the withdrawal is so bad. But if they can get dosed by Ideal Options, it's a lot easier transition. So, and they are a big part of, our community.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Thank you, that was most informative.
You are so welcome. Is that all you needed? You guys are easy. Last week at the Citizens Academy and they had all kinds of questions.
Oh, okay, well, put us on the spot. Thank you very much.
It was great meeting you all and have a wonderful
Thank you.
evening.
We'll start with the different comments. We're going to put our youth council report and right after the police department comments. So we're going to add that to your agenda. So city council liaison comments. Ron.
Thank you. So I was looking back through the notes from the last session and I had a couple of actions that I followed up with the city manager on. The first one was about neighborhood association roadmaps. Wanted to know what's going on and we updating those. And so city manager got back to me and said it's in our 23-24 budget and recruitment is expected to start very soon, if not this week. It's hoping to have somebody in by the end of summer and early fall. And they're going to serve as a liaison for neighborhood revitalization, focused on improving the safety and quality of life in the neighborhoods around the city. They're also going to assist in community outreach as part of the 2024 comprehensive plan periodic update. They're going to be responsible for organizing a system of neighborhoods by establishing both physical and social places. So it's not necessarily going to follow the same districting as the police department. It would be more comprehensive to understand where neighborhoods are interacting and where people can be gathered. So that's all good stuff. The second action was around the business public safety survey for questions about whether we're looking for a satisfaction survey or something that's actionable. And so the response from Mr. Caulfield is that our 2023 work plan for this group includes a plan for the business public safety survey, which is a continuation of a conversation from 2022. And Chief Smith, when he gets back, I believe he's going to talk about that tonight. So we'll have more follow up from him. In addition to that, we're going to have our biennial community survey later this fall. So all businesses in the city to really understand where the priorities are for businesses, and we can incorporate that in city council's strategy plan as we have our retreat in early 2024 as we do our goal setting for the year. Last question was around school zones and red light cameras. And I don't know if that was necessarily brought up at the last session, but Councilman Branstetter brought it up at our city council meeting last week because we're in the process of doing a request for proposal from other companies that manage that, from the one that we're currently with. And there would be an opportunity for input from this group, as well as members of the community, to determine the right place for speed cameras, red light cameras, that sort of thing. Largely it's going to be based on data from speed surveys, traffic collisions, high priority zones like school zones. But there is an opportunity for us to provide our feedback in this forum to sort of steer that ship. Other than that, I'm open to answer any questions or take more actions. I have one, maybe on that red light camera RFP, maybe I missed something, but was there something we're specifically dissatisfied with our current agency or provider? So I think the quality of technical support has been an issue as they've been bought out by other companies. There's been concerns from other municipalities with them and their responsiveness. And so we've gone from, coincidentally, it was time for us to re-up on a 3-year contract. And we said, no, thanks, we're going to go month to month until we have a full RFP process. And they'll be participating in that as well. But it allows us to be more selective and more efficient with the role.
Yeah, I have one question. You missed it when you came to our night out. The question came up about the community policing program. We used to have very active program and COVID, but we sort of pulled that down. What's that going to be revitalized?
That's a good question for Chief Smith. But I do know we've talked about it. And we're looking to find out where resources need to be to do that. Because I remember the community police officer in our neighborhood being a great resource to help us connect with at least for non-emergency stuff and just general information. So I hear you.
It's got a bit of resource, then
Right, to support the city as a whole.
Yes.
It's a lot of resources.
the budget's going to impact it.
Then I'd like to go back to the cameras. You said school and Illinois or school
We're have to look and see which one makes sense. It's all of them, right? So we have red light cameras, we have school zone cameras. It's understanding where it makes sense to have those if it has changed from one maker to another.
or is there a cap on the number?
I'm not sure. It'll be driven by a study.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on to Chief Adams, Fire Department.
Well, we had Summerfest and the 4th of July. Let's see, 4th of July report. We had 81 calls this year. We typically average about 45 to 50 per day. So 4th of July tends to be one of our busier days. As much as that might be the busiest day, it kind of depends on storms. When we have a storm and the trees are down, I mean, we can get, easily close to 100, in a day, it just depends on how bad the storm is, so. Let's see, over the 5-day period, we tend to kind of do our report over July 1st through the 5th. This year we did 333 calls, which is a 10% increase over last year. Over that same period, we did 58 brush fires, which is an incredible number. We probably maybe read some reports about how dry it is in Pierce County and really all over the state. Already in 2023, the number of brush fires we've gone on in our district, mostly in Lakewood, we've already exceeded what we did in 2022. So it's just a really crazy number. As far as confirmed fireworks related calls, we had a total of 9 between the 3 cities. There was only 3 in Lakewood. But as you can imagine, it's kind of difficult to really determine if it's a fireworks related call. You go up and actively burning brush fire and there's no fireworks debris. So that number is probably higher, but at least confirmed we did 9 over the 3 cities and only 3 in Lakewood. So doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean, there's still a lot going on. And then sometimes people ask, well, what kind of drives call volume, brush fires, things like that. A lot of things depend on weather, how dry it is out. It's certainly very dry. It also kind of depends, we look at some of the data. It depends when the 4th of July holiday actually is. If it's like on a Sunday, well, because kids and families are out of work, so not out of work, but they're not working, but Friday, Saturday, Sunday just tend to be very busy days. If the 4th of July falls like on a Wednesday, those numbers actually tend to be a little bit less. So there's a lot of factors in there. On Monday, unfortunately, we had a fatality fire at a mobile home park off 84th. One good thing that came out is firefighters, if you're a cat or an animal lover, we rescued Tiny, which is the smallest kitty that was living in the mobile home. And we were able to rescue her, and she had a few burns, as you can imagine. But we were able to take her to a local veterinarian, and they have been helping her. And I took her to another hospital just this afternoon. So she's doing pretty good, to be in that kind of traumatic experience. And the firefighter because it was very early in the process, the firefighter used his bare hand to help scoop her up, and he suffered some second-degree burns in his hands. So, but he's doing fine. Also doing really good. If you remember me talking about, and Chief Sharp talking a little bit about connected cares position with Karen, she continues to do, excuse me, just great work. She continues to work with people in the community and connect them with resources, and working with LPD and their behavioral health people as well. So these programs are really, they're working, and they're doing a lot for people that just don't have a lot of resources or advocates for themselves. So, like I said, Summerfest was huge. I don't know what the final numbers ended up being, but it sure seemed like there was more people than I've ever seen before. National Night Out, we had a great time last night between the three cities. We did 67 parties. And then, you know, a good third of those were here in Lakewood, and all reports for the chicken and the hot dogs were fantastic, and we were able to, you know, kind of connect. We like the smaller families or the smaller parties. It's nice to go to American Lake and have the bigger groups, but you know, going to those smaller parties, neighborhood parties where you got a handful of kids that are doing some tours with the police cars and fire engines, but it's nice to have those smaller conversations with people and a little bit more intimate setting. So we really enjoyed that and look forward to the next year. That is important. Ask you questions.
When you respond to a fireworks situation, what happens if you discover illegal fireworks? Do you confiscate them or call LPD?
Well, as far as confiscating them, we tend to leave them where they're at for the moment, only because we don't want to have them on the rigs. Something new this year with 911 is encouraging firefighters, if we come across them, if they are illegal, is there's an online reporting system that, by all reports that we've received so far, is that system working very good. Because 911 get phone calls like, oh, I think there's illegal fireworks going off in my backyard. Okay, instead of calling and having that extra call volume, the reporting system online actually worked very good, and I'm not sure if police was able to have any comment on that, but I think it works pretty well. They would get their calls and they would be able to go and check those out if they have time or whatever to do that. So sounds like it worked pretty good.
One last question, did the levy pass?
It is passing at 62.5%, which is good. So we need a 60%. We need about 60 more votes to validate, which sounds kind of interesting. Everybody's like, well, what does that mean? Everybody voted and did their thing. Well, it has to validate. We have to have a certain percentage of people actually casting votes. So we received an extra 2,000, I think, today. And then as of 4 o'clock, we still need 60, but I think with mail-in ballots, we might hit it. So fingers crossed.
I'm curious, how many, or you guys know what the cause of all the brush fires are? Are you able to ascertain the causes of them?
Yeah, a lot of them, you don't know. I mean, it could be because somebody's, they're changed from their car, or it's a cigarette butt, or it's kids playing, or we've had a handful of homeless activity, warming fires and things like that. They're really difficult to put a finger on exactly what the cause is.
Do you guys actually try to, or sort of?
Yeah.
Or what the cause probably is?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good thing that we need to continue to work on and do much better. Those fires sometimes, I mean, with the hoses and everything that kind of gets cleaned up, that dirt and that brush gets beat up so significantly that it's not a great scene to investigate. But we do the best that we can. And a lot of it is, if it's not a passerby, if it's someone there that actually saw the fire, they're like, oh, it started over there and moved this way. We don't always get those reports, because that's a big piece of that investigation piece. It's like, where did it start? Who saw it? Was it just smoke? Was it a passerby? So sometimes it's difficult, because we don't get good reports, so. Good question.
If I could mention, I got the pulse points at 2 years ago. And what you described in your numbers is what my machine is going off left and right on those brush fires.
Yeah,
And what's interesting is you see the equipment the department's sending, you see some comments, short comments. Get an idea how long will that last, where they are. You can kind of get a mental picture, but it seemed like the brush fire, the grass, I think it's called grass fires, were profound this year.
well,
Quick comment, from the city, we heard about 25,000 people at Summerfest this
it was a good
year.
number.
It was a good year. Well, and then the air show was that same weekend, so there were another 100,000 people out there.
Yeah, I probably helped a little bit. I think most people over there.
Great event.
Yeah. It was good, and I think the communication that we had between all the traffic plans, it went very well.
The only complaint I heard was Pierce Transit needed more buses. That's the only thing I heard. But because there were so many people, but I mean, I don't know if anyone really anticipated that.
I was there the second day and one of the bus officials was, or somebody with Pierce was walking down. And he said, well, we learned everything yesterday and we're 100% more prepared today and about 30 minutes late. And that's what he said. We had this huge line and the buses didn't show up as fast as we were in line before they expected. The buses, before they started leaving quick.
Oh, well, that's excellent.
It was hot. Hot to be waiting. Military was driving around having a water bottle.
The car show was run 200% better than it was the year before. That the group that did it did a phenomenal job. Everybody said that. Just 1 or 2 people that were all, yeah. Check-in went smooth. They had that down pat. And just the way they park cars, everything, it was much better.
Keith Smith. It's your turn.
This is yours. So I'll just say that, National Night Out, went very well for us as well. We went around to, various locations. We had a very good schedule. I went through some of them myself, and then the last part of it, I was with the mayor for our tour of the areas, and it worked out exceptionally well. We had no real issues, and it was good to see a number of the community members come out and really enjoy the event. I've gone over the first quarter and second quarter of our overall numbers, and now that we have our crime analyst in place, I think it's going exceptionally well. We get out information a lot better. So we go by our weekly numbers, and so last week we had a total of 1,135 calls for service, police calls for service in the city. Of those, 34 of them were violent crimes. 114 of them were property crimes. The officers made 34 arrests. We did several emphasis in different areas for traffic stops and traffic related matters. And with that, we had 83 traffic stops throughout the city, and our traffic collisions, there were 13 of them that were investigated in the city during that time. We're doing some of this, and I don't know if you mentioned, we're doing couple of real surveys on the city. We're going to be opening up a new RFP to take a look at our traffic red light cameras, as well as some of the speed cameras, so that we can expand the program and or also go to a different vendor for our red light cameras. We are looking to expand some of the different areas. And we also want to add some to various school zones and areas where there are parks. And so in order to do that, we have to make sure that we're putting in the new cameras in areas where we can show either the increase or intensity of traffic collisions, or we've done surveys for those areas as it relates to speed and things of that nature, because all of what we do, including those citations, have to be, we have to be able to justify in court when if we're challenged on any of the citations. So once we move a little bit further in the process, I'm sure that we'll have someone come in to kind of give you guys a presentation and let you know what we're doing, some of the vendors that we're looking at, and also how we intend to a little bit more expand the program so that we can address some of the speed that's in the city, and also make some of the larger crossing areas a little bit more close to. Other than that, if you have any questions, that's all. Yes, sir.
Did I understand you to say at the North Lakewood meeting that you're looking into possibly placing some license plate readers in specific areas?
Yes, so the city council approved the measure that I brought forward to bring block safety cameras to the city. What we've seen is that once the law changed as it relates to stolen vehicles in the city, that our numbers went up considerably. Not only did our numbers go up considerably related to stolen vehicles, it also went up related to juvenile crime within the city. And so in order to address that, the council approved the measure to add 34 block safety cameras with their license plate reader cameras. And they're the reason we chose block and primary reason we're using them is they're only alerting us to stolen vehicles. So folks are thinking we're tracking folks around the city. We're not. It only alerts on stolen vehicles or vehicles where like a significant felony warrant or something of that nature has been placed on the vehicle. The vehicle is wanted for something. And the officers will be alerted as to the vehicle that entered whatever intersection or area, and what the vehicle is needed for, and it's a stolen vehicle. The best part about block is all of this information. If it's not needed after 31 days, it's completely dumped from the system. There's nothing stored. There's no historical data for any of the citizens who went through whatever zones. I think that's reasonable. The information that needed by law enforcement was done, so we're not used to that today.
Are there these cameras out now?
Yes,
Where they at?
they're not in the city of Lakewood, but there are other cities that already have this program. I think it's important.
Does new legislation allow pursuit of vehicles when you've identified?
No, it does not. That's one of the biggest problems that we have in terms of curtailing crime, is because it doesn't allow us to go after some of our biggest offenders. Even our officers complained multiple times where we have a burglary suspect that's leaving a home. We know this is a burglary suspect. We know this is the person that we're looking for in this route, but we cannot pursue that vehicle to bring that person in because it's not about.
Question is, I've been looking at your the statistic that was listed online,
I'm not sure which ones you're looking at.
but,
Which page are you looking at? The last page?
summary,
Okay,
sex crimes are up 43%.
so
Is that just enforcement, federal enforcement?
well, it is better enforcement, but it's also just the way the numbers are calculated. What I looked at when I saw the increase in the overall numbers, the 40-something%, I believe is the one that represents two households where you have one individual that has multiple kids. And there's a report of sex crime, so each individual person is considered a victim. Therefore, it looks like you have a lot more going on than just the representative.
And, pursuits are up 28.6% despite the legislator limiting your.
The pursuits were up 28% as compared to, I'm not sure which one you look at.
Year to date.
Year to date, as compared to last year.
Right.
Yes, they were up as compared to last year. Primarily because, as you know, the law changed, which limited pursuits, and then it changed a little bit more, which allowed us to go after some more individuals. So what you're seeing is just a reflection of the changes of the law.
And I noticed that arrests are up 23% year to date.
Yes, it's our goal to bring those individuals in for responsible for committing crime in the city. And the more that we're able to do that, we will.
So is that just catching up then with the backlog of warrants, or is that?
No, that's regular enforcement.
So a little stiffer enforcement.
Yes.
I think that's the other question. Thank you.
All right.
I have a quick question, on the block. Are there other municipalities around Lakewood that are going forward with that, or are we?
No, we're not the first. There are other municipalities that have them. I know Gallup is picking up a few, and I don't think it's Tukwila has them, and there's another agency that also has them.
And they're all interconnected, so.
Well, that's the best part about block is once you're on the block system, then you can generally have an agreement, whereas you can access their information, they can also access yours. So if the crime occurs in their area and they're tracking a vehicle, they can also track it. And we will be able to do the same.
That's the bigger that we can have.
Yes.
So we're not really successful, we can do.
Absolutely.
Is SWAC an acronym or just?
No, that's the name of the company.
That's all those in favor.
Yes.
That was,
All right.
they have a website.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Last night, no doubt, there was quite a bit of conversation about the community outreach program that was very active. Are you going to be able to get the record to reactivate that, or to reactivate the city council?
You know, the thing is, I'm only one part of the equation. And so our numbers overall, whether it's with officers, as well as our various assignments within the organization. All of this was already, the structure was already in place before I arrived here. So what happened is the program that you are talking about, because I've had to drill down and try to find out what happened was some of those positions were reallocated for other positions. So while we have less community outreach officers, we have more enforcement. I can't remember the name of it right now. What is it, Joanna? enforcement, park enforcement. for
Those guys.
that.
Exactly. Traffic.
We're just wondering, what do we have to do to get the resources to the department so we can get back to that?
And the police department is also currently understaffed, they have no recruiting to get enough folks in.
Actually, we're doing pretty well on recruiting. And I get what you're talking about. We were, down about, 5 officers, which in reality becomes 10 because when you account for vacations and those on military leave, et cetera, then you're talking about 10 positions. So I met with the city manager and let him know that, hey, for a department this size, this can be a big number later on. If you don't plan ahead in terms of looking forward for retirement, planning for the future. So he allowed us 10 officers over staff to recruit to that position because we already know that within a certain amount of time frame, these officers are going to retire and that is where we need to be. Only because it takes so long for the new hire to go through the academy. So we kind of have to prepare and have a little buffer zone. So right now we have 3 individuals in the academy. We have 2 officers that we just rehired. We have 5 lateral officers in the process of transitioning from whatever agency they were at to Lakewood. And we're also just gave 2 additional job offers today to employees who have completed the process. And so we're moving on with everything that we're doing to close that gap and fill those positions so that we don't find ourselves at a deficit.
Thank you.
Anything more for the chief? Very much. Now our youth council report. Violet, take a moment to introduce yourself.
My name is Violet Johnson. I've been on the Lakewood Student Council for 2 years. This upcoming year will be my 3rd year serving, and I go to Harrison Pratt. I'm gonna be a junior this year. And I don't really have much to say for the Lakewood Youth Council because we're on summer, but I can say that happily, there's been interviews, there's no Shannon, she's been doing interviews, and we're gonna be welcoming 37 members. Out of those 37, only 7 members have served previously. So we have a lot of new faces. And so for this year, we're going on a new route because in the previous years, as I have seen and has Shannon seen that the youth council, it's like, it's okay. It's kind of like Shannon or like older seniors kind of have to step up and, push people to want to participate or be attending. So this year, there's going to be a lot more strict rules on attendance, and there's going to be new ways to make sure student voice is inputted. So I can update on that. That's what I can update on.
Congratulations.
I'm gonna add in, you've got 2 big events coming up. If you want to throw those out.
Oh, yeah. So I have the youth summit event. Do you know what this is?
Don't.
I have on
Let
the
me look, I was gonna say, let us look at our calendars. Sorry, that's the Thursday, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yes. Yes.
So while you're looking, I'll say one thing
Yes.
that I forgot. We graduated another 22 people this past week from the Citizen Police Academy. They were very excited about going through the process, and so we're going to be planning the next one. Tentatively, I'm not going to say we're not ready, but it was an outstanding movement because we came to join with us. Learn more about the department. But I'll let you go back.
So based off this email, it's gonna be,
I've got juvenile crime center.
it's gonna be a juvenile crime summit. And from what I know, me, there's this girl named Caitlin who's been serving, and then we're gonna have 2 new members coming, and it's like, we're gonna be giving input and we're gonna be representing the Lakewood Youth Council. So that's what I'm doing tomorrow. And then on August 5th, I think that's a Saturday, we're going to be meeting all the new members and doing like icebreakers so that everyone can get introduced. So that's what's coming up recently for the Lakewood Youth Council. August 5th.
Yep, and then Saturday at the huge kickoff event, we also get to send some photos. It's good collaboration going on there.
All right, moving into unfinished business. So Preston, thank you for the update. I think we've got a pretty good idea about the neighborhood association roadmap on what we need to do. Essentially nothing until the new person really gets hired, know what I did and all that. But,
I would say if anybody knows someone who would be a good candidate for the job, put it on the city's jobs website and encourage them to apply.
okay. All right, but is there some more specific direction on the public safety survey, like what our next step should be?
I don't think there's any action for this body, but as that survey comes out, we'll be sure to let you know.
Okay, because Mark, we met with the chief and Mark revised once again the survey and submitted it. And do you have any idea if that was reviewed by anyone?
I haven't seen it, but I can ask.
Okay, all right. So we're holding pattern a little bit on that too.
When I saw that survey was gonna go out later this fall.
Well, I guess we'll put it for a little while again. I know Martin really spearheaded some organization behind the truck and tractor day planning. He's not here. Mark, are you on that? Who else is on there?
I haven't heard anything other than I submitted suggestions for activities for us to put on.
I know Martin asked for our input. What was yours? You mind? Sherry?
You have to ask,
Yeah.
just some games that kids could play, some activities they could, we could set up some cones that could take a soccer ball and weave through there, set up a couple of basketball hoops, one short one, one longer one. Or contest and how many they could do, what else? Try to hit a golf ball into a bucket. And you can't remember, there's a couple other ones.
Sounds like a fun one. All right. So, new business, preview of next meeting. You have what you need, Joanna?
Oh, it's not yet. We have we have PSAC elections and the 2024 work plan. So we'll be
really?
electing that. That year went by quickly.
We'll just have to call Martin to hang on a little bit longer.
So yes, so that's those will be our focus. So come with your thinking caps on for that work plan.
Here's my life. Okay, so any reports, community outreach, anyone mentioned North Lakewood?
North Lakewood, chief was there at the meeting, is the 18th, I believe, July, and went over the information that he presented to us over the first and second quarter finding statistics. And what's the name of your officer that was with you?
Jeremy James.
Yes, who interacts with the homeless people, basically. And he gave a good presentation. There was 40 people in, probably maybe a few more. It was a pretty good turnout. And they had their first night last night. And somebody said there were 60 people there. Yeah, so.
National Night Out.
National Night Out. They had an Adriacs on the patio with music.
Remember that.
That's my report.
Anyone else attending today? Okay. So the pending policy and ordinance changes, I'm not exactly.
No, that's just if there was one that's placed off the placeholder for it, and if there isn't.
Okay. All right, anything else for the order? Not, I say let's move to adjourn.
I'll so move. Second.
All right,
Who's second?
Mark,
Mark, thank you.
we'll see you all in a couple minutes. Well, I reported. My first is quite a lot. That's all.
Oh, really?